Hello everyone. It's been a while since I put out a video. I've been working on some projects and I hope to get more videos out in the near future. A neighbor of mine was clearing some land to build a house. The land had several maple trees on it and he asked me if I wanted the wood. I said yes and ended up with these logs in my driveway. I want to take you through the steps I used to turn these logs into slabs of wood ready to start the drying process. I use a chainsaw mill to slab up the logs. More on this later. But there are 3 steps I try to follow. The first step is to position the log to get the best slabs. For example, try to cut parallel to any crotch wood in the tree to expose the crotch grain pattern. You get to study the outside of the log for a bit to decide what cuts will give you the best slabs. Second, you'll need some way to put a reference surface on the log to make the first cut. You'll see I use a 2x8 and run the top of the chainsaw mill on the top of that board. The 2x8 is screwed to the log using 3-inch screws. The reference board needs to be secure to the log, but not so tight that the log is bending the shape of the board. The board is your reference, so it needs to remain flat and straight. It should also go without saying, but make sure the depth of the cut is greater than the length of the screws. Chainsaw blades don't like it when you hit the screws. After the reference board is set, you're ready to make your first cut. Generally speaking, the first cut will go faster than the other cuts because the width of the cut is smaller. In my case, the first cut took 2 minutes and 3 seconds. And by the way, I know the face shield is supposed to be down. I finally put that down when making the third cut. The third step is to continue cutting the log using the surface from the previous cut as a reference. Now at this point, I'm going to give you one word of caution. I've broken 2 chainsaws while trying to slab up logs over the past couple years. The one I'm using now is new, and so far it's working great. So the caution is cutting with the grain can be hard on a chainsaw. Make sure your saw is built to handle cutting with the grain in a chainsaw mill. I'll put a link in the description below to the chainsaw and the chainsaw mill that I'm using. My second cut took 4 minutes and 7 seconds. I'm cutting each slab to about 4 inches. And there are some good and bad aspects of this thickness of a slab. On the bad side, the slab is 4 inches thick, about 5 feet long, and 20-ish inches wide. So the slab you're left with can be very heavy when you've got the wet wood. It's not light when it's dry, but it certainly is much lighter. Another downside of a 4-inch slab is the time it takes for the slab to dry. The thicker the slab, the longer the drying time. I cut the slabs to 4 inches for several reasons. When you're working on CNC projects, for example, carving something or making something in the turning center, it's nice to be able to start with a thicker piece of wood rather than having to glue up several thinner boards to get the thickness you need. You'll see in the next section, I like to surface the slabs before placing them in the drying stack. I'll usually surface them down to 3.5 inches. There's more on surfacing in the next section we'll talk about. My primary reason for using 4-inch slabs is because the kerf of the chainsaw is very wide. If you make a lot of cuts with the chainsaw, you end up turning more of the log into sawdust rather than having it as usable wood. My third cut took 3 minutes and 44 seconds, and the last cut took 2 minutes and 24 seconds. And by the way, this log is about 20 inches in diameter. The next step I use is surfacing. Surfacing provides two benefits. When the chainsaw makes a cut, you do not always get a flat surface on the slab. Surfacing makes sure the twists and warps from the chainsaw cut are removed before drying. Second, surfacing makes sure all the slabs are flat and have the same thickness. This helps when stacking the slabs to dry. Surfacing wet wood does not mean the wood will be flat when it's dry. The wood will warp and twist, so surfacing now only means that we're starting with something flat, not that we're going to end with something flat. I've found the CNC is a great machine to flatten and surface the slabs. Since the slabs are heavy, there's no need to clamp them to the bed of the CNC. So first, I put the slabs on the bed. Then I check for any unevenness. I want the slab lying as stable as possible. Usually that means I add some shims to keep the slab from rocking. Then I mill the first side until the surface is flat. Turn the slab over and mill the second side down to 3.5 inches. After the slabs are surfaced, there's one more step before the slabs are ready to be stacked for drying. Wood dries faster through the end grain than it does through the face of the slab. To help prevent cracking, you want to slow down the rate moisture leaves the end grain. You can do this by sealing the end grain so the board will dry uniformly rather than the end drying first and causing the board to crack. Sealing the end grain can be done after the slab is surfaced, or it can be done before you start slabbing the log. I've done both and really don't have a preference. In the video, I'm showing sealing the end grain in the log. The important point is the end grain needs to be sealed as soon as possible after the tree is cut down. There are products designed for sealing the wood grain. Examples are Anchor Seal or any of the tree grafting sealant line of products. I don't have any of those products on hand, so I'll use some leftover paint I had. Leftover paint is not necessarily the best solution, but it is much better than doing nothing. Anything to seal up the end grain can help reduce the cracking. On some of my slabs, I used some leftover polyurethane I had, and on other slabs I used some leftover epoxy. So not all the slabs will look like the end grain has been sealed in the video. Now we're ready to stack the wood for drying. Wood can be dried either inside or outside. In either place, you need to make sure you've got good air circulation. The wood is very wet, and if you don't have good air circulation, you can get mold growing in the wood. I have wood stacked both inside and outside my house. I'll show the stack inside in this video. I start by placing 2x2s on the basement floor. This allows air circulation underneath the first layer. 2x2s are also used between each layer, again, to allow air circulation. These 2x2s are called stickers. Notice this wood is being stacked in the corner of the room. Even though the stack has stickers, the walls of the room will limit airflow. I'll be using a fan to get better airflow through the stack. You may notice some rather large cracks in some of the slabs. These cracks are from when the tree was pushed over. They were in the log when I got it. I'll have to either work around the cracks or make them some kind of a feature in a future project. Each of these slabs are about 3.5 inches thick, as we've already mentioned. This means the drying time for these slabs will be quite long. It's hard to tell exactly how long. Some have said you should figure a year of drying time for each inch of thickness if you're drying outside. Drying time is less if you're in an environment where the temperature and humidity are more controlled, such as inside your house. The best approach is to monitor the wood with a moisture meter and see how fast it's drying. Another consideration is the weight you have on the top of the stack. You can use the weight to hold the boards flat as they dry. Without any weight, the top slabs can warp. I have more logs to slab, so this stack is going to grow. After the stack is done, I generally place some heavy concrete landscape blocks on the top to provide weight for the top layers. For now, the wood is stacked. All we have to do is wait and see how things turn out. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please let me know in the comments below if you have any questions or suggestions for better steps to take when harvesting wood. I've done this on a couple batches of wood, but I still have things to learn. Thank you very much for watching.